After a fruitful call, Mr. Gerald Hayes was ecstatic, and I found myself reflecting on my ability to manipulate his finances by using my expertise to seamlessly move more than $10 million in 4 countries through the channels of 12 banks, effectively laundering his funds from the prying eyes of any government investigation. I adhered to the principle of don't ask, don't tell, and my efforts not only brought me great wealth, but also made me a master strategist in the financial field. Currently, I manage 16 bank accounts in 8 countries, own 10 cryptocurrency wallets, and operate a company that oversees my assets, including my residence, vehicle, and all of my expenses. I protect myself from civil liability lawsuits and potential divorce settlements because my net worth on record remains small, my income is low, and many of my clients recognize the value that I bring in resolving the value I brought to their financial woes, and as a result offered me various incentives to show their appreciation. My business partners were eager to return the favor for the services I provided them, and they were eager to lend a hand at home. At home, my wife, Melissa, considers me to be just a financial advisor, which is accurate to some extent because I hold certifications as both a certified financial advisor and a certified public accountant, and I fulfill that role, but she still has no idea of my income, the size of my assets, or the existence of my offshore accounts. Throughout our 5 years of marriage, Melissa appears contented, she cherishes our time together, and she exudes happiness, especially in our intimate moments where we have shared many memorable experiences. With her stunning body, long legs, and mesmerizing face, she has been referred to by many as a vase wife. Her blonde hair and mesmerizing blue eyes caught men's eyes wherever she went, often provoking them to make advances. Before we were married, I found out that Melissa had dated a man named Jason Nelson while she was in college, and that she was deeply infatuated with Jason, but he didn't want to settle down at the time, and instead enlisted in the Marines, causing their relationship to fade. 8 Now, 8 years later, Jason has returned to our town from his military service, and once he's back, it's only natural that Jason meets up with old acquaintances, including my wife, Melissa, who has always been fascinated by him. And after he got her cell phone number through a mutual friend, he began texting and calling her in an attempt to reconnect for old time's sake. Although Melissa had always been attentive and lively, her behavior now hinted that something was on her mind, and I resolved to stop passively waiting for answers and watch her more closely. The next day, I contacted a trusted colleague of mine in the business world and confided in him, seeking his help. He enthusiastically offered his support, seeing it as an opportunity to return the financial gains I had secured for him and help him avoid legal trouble. He assured me that his team would look into the matter immediately, and utilizing their expertise in the deep and dark web, as well as a variety of surveillance techniques, my colleague compiled a comprehensive 4 inches profile on Jason Nelson, which contained an exhaustive array of information ranging from his birth certificate to his college transcripts, family pedigree, and military service records. I also received printouts of his daily text messages, which showed that he was sending my wife, Melissa, more than 15 text messages per day with alarming frequency. My outrage at this predatory behavior grew by the day, as Melissa clearly still had feelings for this man. My anger reached a boiling point, which prompted me to seek advice from my business partner, who provided me with advice on how to handle the situation. Through meticulous surveillance conducted by my friend's team, we determined the exact time and place of their date so that we could prepare accordingly. Upon entering the restaurant on Thursday, June 16th, I caught a glimpse of them snuggled up in a secluded corner, and my heart was pounding as I saw Melissa dressed provocatively in a low-cut dress without a moment's respite. I noticed a lanky figure following me, probably one of my backup plans, and as I approached their table, both Melissa and her companion looked up and greeted me. "Hello, Melissa," I said calmly as I slid into the booth across from them at the card table. There was tension in the air as Melissa and I locked eyes. Jason's expression revealed confusion while my wife's face was a mix of shock and guilt, and despite her attempts to retract her hand from Jason's, Jason tightened his grip. "This, my dear, is Jason Nelson, and this is my husband, Thomas." Melissa, whose voice trembled a little as she was introduced, her nervousness a stark contrast to Jason's smugness. "I don't want to interrupt your lunch, but I need a few minutes with my wife in private. Would you mind stepping out of the booth?" I requested, my tone steady despite my inner turmoil. I led her into the empty men's restroom. There was tension in the air and I was ready to address the issue on the spot: why Melissa wasn't wearing a bra and how revealing that dress was. I grabbed her skirt around her waist and gently turned her towards the mirror, forcing her to face her reflection. Is this how you choose to present yourself when I'm not around? Melissa, what the hell are you playing at? I promise. She hastily pulled down her high skirts and said in a tone of authority and seriousness she'd never heard before, I speak thoughtfully, every word carries weight, and it's clear that we need to work this out, and you're going to have to follow my instructions to the letter if you want to salvage our marriage. You take your purse and get out of here, don't even look at your companion, get straight into your car, drive home, prepare a pot of coffee and wait for me to return. I shouldn't be more than 10 minutes behind you. You're forbidden to contact your boyfriend or anyone else until we've finished talking, and I'll be responsible for explaining the reason for your departure. I've noticed that she's avoided my sight, most likely feeling guilty about being in this situation, and if you don't comply with my instructions, don't expect to find shelter in your home tonight. I'll be in touch to tell you what to do from here on out. And one more thing, don't change out of that dress. I want you to wait for me as is. Jason was my first love, and it took me a long time to come out of the shadows after he left me years ago. Although our relationship has long since faded, I still harbor a deep love for him. His flirting and sweet words touched a chord in me that I thought I had buried long ago. He had a way of making me feel like I was back in my innocent school days. I hated the fact that I couldn't resist his advances, and despite my efforts to rebuff him, his persistent flirting and incessant messaging eventually soured me on him, and I eventually agreed to have lunch with him. Deep down, I knew I had failed Tommy in our relationship. I should have been honest with Tommy from the beginning, telling him about Jason's return to town and our exchanges, but I had kept it from him, and it left me with a guilty conscience and a sense of remorse. Jason had a way of drawing me in, and when he asked me to dress seductively, I found myself agreeing, even though I knew it was wrong. Despite my inner turmoil, a text message from Jason indicating that he was looking forward to meeting me sent me further down the road, and although I struggled with the urge to spill my guts to Tommy, I rationalized that a simple lunch for old time's sake didn't matter, just a brief reunion. I'll admit that seeing him at the diner stirred up all sorts of emotions within me, a strange yet exciting feeling fueled by my lingering attraction to them, and my cheeks burned with embarrassment as he pressed his lips to mine and guided me into the secluded booth. His hand held mine tightly, giving me a sense of security and warmth in the midst of that brief moment of laughter. Tommy's sudden appearance shattered my illusions suddenly. He stood and then sat across from us with a chilling smile on his face. Fear gripped me as I realized the implications of our intimate moment in Tommy's presence. I longed to bridge the gap, to express my love for him, to take away his pain, but I was still immobilized by guilt, and the scornful look he threw at me shattered my heart. I fidgeted, unable to say a word. Tommy tried to talk to me, which sent a wave of fear through me as I braced myself for the inevitable. He told me to go home and wait for his arrival, and his demeanor sent shivers down my spine. I knew that in order to save our marriage, I had to listen to him and explain to him the reasons behind my behavior. Jason's strong build and 8 years of Marine Corps training posed a huge threat to Tommy's safety. His insistence that I leave and his assurances that he would be back soon gave me a sense of impending trouble, and his instructions not to change my attire were like an ominous reminder that I would soon be held accountable for my behavior. He was the last person I wanted in my life. All I wanted was to remember the past and enjoy my innocence, but now from Tommy's point of view, it seemed I was on the verge of betraying him with Jason Dan. I couldn't bear to look at Jason knowing that he must be wondering where I was going. It took me a while to gather myself and drive home. The drive felt like an eternity. The pained look in Tommy's eyes brought tears to my eyes. I couldn't believe that I'd allowed Jason to manipulate me. Now I had to find a way to make things right with Tommy. I have to save our marriage. I can't imagine my life without Tommy. He has to realize that he's the only person in my life that truly loves me. It doesn't look like Melissa is coming back. I want to talk to you. I'm sure you know that Melissa still has feelings for you and is very volatile, as evidenced by today and the last couple of weeks. This afternoon I'm going to give Melissa the choice to either stay in our marriage or leave me for you, but not both. She will make that decision independently, without any influence from you. If she chooses you, so be it. But if she decides to stay in the marriage, she won't contact you again, and if you don't hear from her today, I'd appreciate it if you didn't contact her again. You know what I mean? She's a capable adult, she'll make her own choices, you don't own her, and one thing's for sure, she'll inevitably come back to me, she can't resist. I mean, you're attractive with your looks and your muscles, and there must be a million single women out there who would love to have your attention, so why can't a man like you stay away from married women? But you're underestimating me. Listen, Jason, you don't know my life or the circles I'm in, and that's the first mistake you're making. It's been a while since you last saw your sister Christina in Austin, and her 3 daughters must be growing up pretty fast, and I'm sure they'll be very happy to have Uncle Jason come to visit. Oh, and as for your best friend Bob, his girlfriend is expecting, and it looks like a boy, and I laughed and retorted. I laugh and retort, you talk too confidently tonight. Let's see who's really in charge. Will she choose a macho man like you, or will she honor the promise of our 5-year marriage? She can choose to stay with you and say goodbye to me and our marriage. If that is her decision, I will gladly accept it and wish you both happiness, but I will not share my life with a woman who desires another man. If she chooses to be faithful, her recent behavior with you will be adjusted, the breach of trust will now need to be restored, and with regards to you, if she chooses to stay with me, you will cease all contact with her, and your loved ones will bear the consequences of your reckless behavior. Do you understand the gravity of what I'm saying? Do you understand the gravity of my attitude? Jason sat there, his face frozen in disbelief and thought. My appearance may deceive you, but rest assured that I am not as simple as you see me. I always keep my word. If she has betrayed me, she has made her choice, but if she is faithful, she will stay with me. There is no middle ground. Jason couldn't shake the uncertainty that lingered under his words. The man exuded arrogance, but I couldn't help but guess what he might be talking about. The truth would soon be revealed. I got up from my seat and prepared to leave. I said, I hope to never cross paths with you again or do anything dishonorable, but time will tell. It was clear that Jason now understood that someone was watching me, challenging his view of me as a docile, unsuspecting spouse, and on the drive home, the thought kept running through my head, would the woman I loved so much bet against me again? Choosing Jason would leave her penniless, with only meager alimony from my meager income. The company-owned car would be swiftly repossessed, likewise the house registered in the company's name would be out of her reach. She would find herself without a roof over her head, without a means of transportation. Her earning potential would be capped at minimum wage. Jason was currently unemployed, and her lifestyle would plummet from luxury to barely scraping by in a humble apartment to barely scraping by, most likely taking a job at a place like Walmart to make ends meet. Melissa sat at the kitchen table, looking nervous, tears welling up in her eyes as she sipped her coffee and poured herself a cup. I sat down across from her. Melissa, I know everything, including the exchange between you and Jason, and before you ask any further, you need to understand that I have a number of relationships through my business dealings, and I know that you're remorseful, but apologizing isn't going to do much good right now. Your actions today broke my trust and destroyed our marriage. You put him before me in total disregard for our relationship. You know me from your conversations with Jason. You have crossed the line. Suggestive dress code, intimate gestures, all seem like betrayal to me. You have to understand that I can't stand the thought of you sharing with someone else, especially a cheating spouse. I know that you had a relationship with Jason, and I know that your feelings for his lingering feelings. And the reason I haven't taken drastic action yet is because my love for you runs deep, and I'm determined to salvage our relationship. But before we go any further, I need to ask one question, and I want you to be honest. Because I may already know the truth. Has anyone else crossed that line in our marriage besides me? No, never. I swear it was only you, but you're willing to entertain that idea today, aren't you? That's the end of our conversation. It seems that other than some hand-holding and texting, nothing has happened to end our marriage. Although I am deeply disappointed in your behavior. Now explain to me why you chose that revealing dress. I know it's stupid and selfish, but he has a way of influencing me. I never wanted to sleep with him. You have to trust me, Melissa. I want to trust you, but your behavior today has forced me to confront a serious question, a question that requires an honest answer, and I'm not going to marry someone who has feelings for someone else, so that's the choice I'm giving you, and you need to think about it carefully, because once you've made your decision, there's no going back between Jason and our marriage. If you choose him, I'll let you go, and I'll make sure that the divorce settlement is fair and that the two of you are safe and won't seek retaliation. Or you have the choice to stay in our marriage and remain faithful to me, and to our vows. Me to remain faithful and honor our vows, and if you choose to stay married, you must sever all ties with Jason from this day forward and forever. He is dead to you. She agreed to my terms without hesitation. Melissa, today you have a chance to redeem yourself, a rare opportunity to choose between a past lover and your faithful husband. I'm going to take a shower, and when I return I want you to make a wise choice." As she turned to leave the kitchen, she hastily interjected, "Of course it's you, my dear. I'm choosing you. I love you. I don't want anyone else. Melissa, your behavior has betrayed me deeply. I hear what you're saying, but I need you to sit down and reflect on it. Trust has to be rebuilt if we're going to be together. The pain and anger you've caused won't go away overnight. Take your time and give me answers when I get back." I told her firmly before I left her, tears streaming down her face, her head buried in her hands. "I promise to make it up to you and be the perfect wife. You are my husband and I want us to have children together in the future. Please don't believe me," she pleaded. Her tone was firm, her kisses passionate. We embraced and kissed passionately before I led her to our bed, and in that moment I reclaimed my wife. Dan didn't call her the next day. "It seems she's still with that asshole. I can't believe it." The chemistry between us, her demeanor, everything made me think she'd choose me. If only I could have prevented this from happening. I haven't given up yet. I still believe I can win her back. "I'm sorry, Thomas, but you're going to lose your girl." 3 days after the confrontation, Jason couldn't help himself but to send a text to Melissa, trying to lure her away from me. Luckily Melissa saw the text in time, but she didn't reply. She knew I would see it and she didn't want to take any chances. The next day I decided to reach out to Jason and ask him about his parents' search for Rocky and Roxy. Jason's first response was to call his parents and find out the pain they were feeling after realizing their pets were missing. To emphasize the seriousness of the situation, I had Rocky and Roxy temporarily disappear under my watch to ensure their safety, but at the same time sent a clear message to Jason. Jason called me back immediately after speaking to his parents, his tone filled with anger. "What the hell did you do? I clearly warned you not to contact Melissa, but you ignored my warnings, and I made it very clear that if you contacted her you would experience unprecedented pain and that you would have to live with the consequences. Your threats don't strike me as magnanimous. In fact, I'm reconsidering whether or not they'll be coming back." "How does that sound, Jason?" "Maybe I should notify your parents as to why their precious pets are missing. What do you think?" "Okay. I'm sorry, please bring them. I'm sorry, please. Bring them back. I'll stay away from them. I promise. This is just the beginning. I swear I'll stay out of her life and you'll never hear from me again." "When can I expect them back?" "They'll be back soon. But Jason, remember, I'm a long way away. I can't control everything. The people I'm dealing with all have their own agendas. I'm going to talk to them and see what I can do, and hopefully we'll never have to have this conversation, because the next time there won't be words exchanged the next day, and the next time there won't be words exchanged the next day. Next time there won't be a verbal exchange." The next morning at 3 a.m. the parents finally breathed a sigh of relief. Their dog was barking happily on the porch and they didn't know what was going on. They were just grateful to have their pet back. Jason was so relieved to hear the news, he even sent me a text message after they got back with one word: "Thank you." Jason finally took the hint and moved away from Melissa and took a job in a city a few hours away. But I knew that as long as Jason was alive, there was a chance that he could reappear in Melissa's life, so I took an aggressive step, and 2 weeks after the incident, I presented Melissa with a post-nuptial agreement drafted by my attorney, in which she agreed to relinquish everything, including any rights to the children she had fathered during the course of our marriage, in the event that she was unfaithful. A year later, Melissa found herself pregnant with their first child, and the bond between the couple strengthened significantly. Jason's ghost faded away, and no one ever spoke of him again, as if he no longer existed. That pivotal day had the potential to irrevocably change their lives, but Tommy's unwavering love and decisive demeanor were instrumental in saving their marriage. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story, and if you enjoyed it, please consider bookmarking and subscribing, and if you haven't already, feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below.